Mansfield Shire Council, Tuesday, the 19th of August 2025. I'd like to welcome my CEO, our councillors, council officers, people in the gallery tonight, and everyone online. So, welcome to our meeting. Apologies tonight, Madam CEO, Neil. I'll read the statement of commitment. As councillors of Mansfield Shire, we are committed to ensuring our behaviour meets the standards set by the Model Councillor Code of Conduct. We will at all times faithfully represent and uphold the trust placed in us by the community. Can you confirm your commitment, Councillor Team?
I confirm my commitment.
Councillor Treasurer?
I confirm my commitment.
Councillor Clark?
I confirm my commitment.
Councillor Brenny?
I confirm my commitment.
Thank you, and I confirm my commitment. The acknowledgement of country, Deputy Mayor.
Our meeting has been held on the traditional lands of the Taungurung people. We wish to acknowledge them as the traditional custodians and pay our respects to their elders past and present. We extend that respect to all members of our community.
Thank you. Disclosure of conflicts of interest. I'll ask each councillor whether they have any conflicts of interest. Councillor Team.
No conflict of interest in tonight's meeting agenda.
Thank you. Councillor Treasurer.
No conflicts on tonight's agenda, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Clark.
No conflicts for me, Mr. Mayor.
And Councillor Brenny.
I have a conflict to declare for the agenda item in the confidential council meeting agenda.
Sure, thank you very much. And I have no conflicts of interest on any agenda item tonight. Confirmation of minutes, item 7, recommendation. Councillor Clark?
I'd like to move that the minutes of the Mansfield Shire Council meeting held on the 15th of July 2025 be confirmed as an accurate record.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Treasurer. All those in favour of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you. Representations. Tonight we have 2 representations. We will have one on agenda item 13.2.1. Ms. Amy True from Cork will be online, and item 13.2.2, planning application, Melbourne Street. Mr. Nick Lahandris, he will be online at that time. Notices of motion are nil. The Mayor's report I'll take as read, councillors. Councillor Brenny.
Yeah, I would like to move that council receive the Mayor's report for the period 16 July 2025 to 13 August 2025.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Treasurer. All those in favour of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you. The reports from council, item 11. Reports for council appointed representatives. The committee, Australia Day Awards Committee, has not met. Goulburn Murray Climate Alliance, Councillor Brenny.
Yes, the meeting has been moved to next week as the state annual conference is on Friday, which I'll be attending with a few other councillors from the region. So I'll report at the next meeting.
Good, thank you. A Hume Regional Local Government Network. I was an apology for that meeting, so I'll pass it over to the CEO.
Thanks through you, Mr. Mayor. That meeting was held, and that actually was last week. And the focus of the meeting was on advocacy positions, with 5 motions endorsed by the group to be going to the next MAB State Council. These included motions on mining and quarry fees, the Emergency Services and Volunteer Fund, the drought support provided by the state, financial sustainability, and also one on planning reform, which was based on the motion that Mansfield Shire put forward to Haragon for consideration.
Good one, thank you. Mansfield Shire Council Ordinary Risk Committee will meet next Monday. So myself and Councillor Treasurer will get back to you on the next meeting about that one. Mansfield Shire CEO Employment Matters Committee, we met last Thursday to consider the CEO's KPIs. And we will give the council members our recommendations for the September meeting. Municipal Association of Victoria has not met. North East Local Government Waste and Recovery Forum, Councillor Brenny.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. We met yesterday, Monday, August 18. I travelled over to Benalla where we had the meeting there, council officers, along with Project Officer Surab Singh, as well as the new Senior Waste Coordinator, James Alcanes. And that was a good trip over there. Further discussed the glass rollout options, how different councils were taking on the standardisation. As part of that, had Executive Manager from Recycling Victoria dial into the meeting, gave a presentation, couldn't answer too many of the nitty-gritty questions as they're sitting with the Minister. So any pushback by councils is held up there at the moment. But the forum's looking at a way that we can sort of combine with a few of the smaller councils to have a collective pushback on that standardisation rollout. So hopefully at the next meeting in November, we'll have a bit of a plan of what we could do for that pushback if the minister's looking like they won't accept it. And then some really good discussion amongst the officers about how we'd structure the meetings going forward and what they'd get the most out of it. Discussion whether or not councillors needed to be at every meeting, if that was going to restrict their ability to discuss things, operational things. So there'll be more to report in November, a few of those talks. But all in all, good meeting.
Thanks, Councillor Brenny. Well done. Rural Councils Victoria, they met in Yarrawonga and the CEO and I decided, James Senior away at that time. So under delegation, I decided that I wouldn't be going over to Yarrawonga. Rural Councils of Victoria had an excessive, I think, fee for the night and a boat trip and accommodation, and I wouldn't let any councils meet during the day that were closed. So we decided to save the ratepayers' money and not go. The Station Precinct Museum Community Asset Committee hasn't met, and nor has the Tarongarong Local Government Forum Committee. Councillor Treasurer.
I'd like to move that the council note the verbal reports provided by councillors in relation to their representation on internal and external committees. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Clark. Want to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Clark.
No, thank you.
Anyone else want to speak to or put against the motion? I'll put the motion to vote. All those in favour? Motion is carried. Thank you. Public question time, item 12. Yes, we do have a
We
question.
do have a question, Mr. Mayor.
And yes, but we still have a question, so I'm going to read that question out. It's been submitted to us, even though the person's not here. But you can read it out, councillor.
Thank you, Mr.
Sorry, point of order. We don't have to read it out if the person isn't present. It's part of the requirement for the question to be read that they are present.
Yes.
You can make an executive order, but I'm just to
understood.
clarify.
Understood. Yeah. The person that sent the question in, I'd like
To hear the answer.
to hear the answer, because I think it's a good question and I support the question. So I'd like to listen to it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Treasurer, go
Thank
for
you,
it.
Mr. Mayor. From Ms. Greenwood, would more budget be allocated for Christmas decorations for 2025? I noticed very minimal, if much, decorations in December 2024. The main ones were for very small reindeer in Hyatt Street, roundabout added on 9th of December. For a town that is growing with more young families, do you agree it is important to plan for and provide an atmosphere of festivities and enjoyment? It also shows tourists we take pride in showcasing our town during this special time of year. I understand my sentiment has been felt broadly. The response from Mansfield Shire is, thank you for your question. We appreciate your feedback and understand that festive displays play an important role in creating an atmosphere for both residents and visitors, particularly in a growing community like ours. Each year, council installs a large Christmas tree in the median strip on High Street. We also cover the public bins with the Christmas-themed posters, as these are highly visible to pedestrian traffic. As noted, in 2024, we also purchased the reindeers for the High Street roundabout and wrap tinsel around the umbrellas along the median strip. Planning for Christmas 2025 is currently underway. We are hoping to partners with local businesses and community to enhance the festive aesthetic by combining Christmas decorations for greater impact and effect. Thank you for your interest.
Thanks, Councillor Treasure.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good. So, officer reports, item 13.1 is the Chief Executive Officer's report. And obviously I'll take that as read, councillors. Are there any questions to the Chief Executive Officer? In that case, Councillor Clark.
I'd like to move that council receive and note the Chief Executive Officer's report for the period 1st of July 2025 to 31st of July 2025.
Thank you. Got a seconder, Councillor Treasure. Councillor Clark, do you want to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Treasure.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else want to speak to or against that motion? Motion to a vote. Those in favour. Motion's carried. Item 13.2.1 is the planning permit application P016-25 8 to 10 Chenry Street, Mansfield. The responsible officer is Ms. Embling, and we do have a deputation from Ms. True from Gork. Is Ms. True about Ms. True?
Yes.
Yeah, g'day. My name's Councillor Steve Ragan, the Mayor. Welcome to our meeting tonight. You have 3 minutes to give your deputation, and I'll just set my clock. Go for it.
Perfect. Setting mine as well. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be here tonight. I'll first off start by giving a little brief overview of Gork Outdoor as a business itself. So the business was started by two brothers about 7 years ago and has primarily focused on billboards in regional Victoria, growing to over 250 individual locations, focusing on community-based and regional areas. So why has this been so successful in the past is that the media landscape is definitely changing with a decrease in radio, print and TV media, and outdoor advertising itself has been growing year on year. With this specific application itself, from our perspective, we believe that this is a reasonable and balanced design outcome in the area, as it sits within a commercial zone surrounded by other retail and like service uses. I guess in the actual objections or the objections received were probably the main point that it's been come to council tonight, noting that there were several objections raised. However, responding and reviewing to these, we believe there were some concerns that were a bit of an overestimation of the sign. So in saying that, a lot of the objectors raised traffic concerns and risks, which can't be sustained due to the internal review as well as external review by DTP, providing that there was no objection to that. A lot of objections spoke to the character of the area, which itself is a mixed-use environment with other large developments such as petrol stations, shops and services, which we believe that the proposed sign will fit within that established setting. Also noting that the commercial zone itself allows for promotional signage under the guidelines there. So the aim of this sign is not to create an overpopulated area in the streetscape, but rather it be used for a tool for local businesses and events to reach both local and visitor audiences in Mansfield. So our signs across Victoria have an occupancy rate of around 70% local contact, which was raised by a council's own economic development team as well, knowing this potential benefit. So this is something that we could potentially work with council, making a permit condition to ensure that the actual signage itself will benefit the Mansfield LGA and businesses. And we also have a little bit of wriggle room as well. There is around 2 meters that we can push the sign to the north of the property, off the fence, to help create some distance between the sign and push it further into the commercialised area that it sits within. We can also lower the sign a little bit if council views this to be a necessary outcome. And it would sit below the skyline height of the building behind. And I believe that's 3 minutes, so I'll cut myself off there. Thank you.
You're right on time, and thanks for doing that for me. Thanks, Ms. True. I'll open this up for questions to Ms. True, councillors. Councillor Barini.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for attending, Ms. True. Just a question on how you talk about starting this. How do you find the locations with potential? How is that identified, especially say for a place like Mansfield?
Yeah, great question. Thank you for that one. So from a high level, it's about the zoning and what is actually permissible under the guidelines. So in Victoria, it is commercial zoning and industrial zoning with some leeway in special uses, but I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty for you tonight. In terms of us actually finding sites that are going to fit for our proposed billboards, it's about the actual streetscape and area of the sign. So understanding, is there a commercial presence? Will the sign fit in with the landscape as it evolves? And also, like, the location of the sign needs to be feasible for the advertisers to be on them. So is it going to generate attention, traffic? We need to make sure it's on a main road in towns and away from areas that would be deemed too beautiful or in part of like larger landscape plans that councils or the wider frameworks might have. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Councillors, any other questions?
One more from me was just on how you control and monitor the amount of local content that goes on. If this is a digital board, are you in control of it remotely? Or if it's a static board, how do you ensure that there is 70% local content?
Yeah, thank you for that again. Just clarifying that this board is a static billboard, no digital capabilities. There's 2 ways to go about that. Firstly is a permit condition put on the actual permit given to us, which stipulates that it has to be local content. Every time that this has happened, we've managed to meet those targets set forth by us. If we don't, it basically gives council the right to evoke the permit itself. It's also part of our policy internally at GORC that we want to reach local first. That's been the main drive of our business and why we've been so successful over the last 7 years. So there's both parts of that on our own back and then also the back that council gives us through the permit conditions.
Thank you.
I have a question. Thank you, Ms. True. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Do you have any like reportable or measurable impact that promoting on these signs directly has to businesses? Right, does GORC do any kind of study around that?
Yeah, thank you for that question. We do. I don't have any available on me right now, but we do have research projects that we go through. A lot that I can think of. I'm just trying to think. I've got too many examples to running through my mind, but if this is something that council would like, I'm happy to provide that after the fact, pass along some evidence. A lot of this has been our own research, but we do have some from the OMA, which is the governing authority of outdoor media, which does show a reflection of advertising spend into increased revenue for businesses who have worked with us or other media partners. I hope that answers it.
One more question, Mr. Mayor. have there been any businesses in Mansfield that have shown interest in advertising on one of your promotional signs? Or what is the process? Is it a bit of a chicken and egg thing where you build it and then they are interested, or do you follow interest in terms of picking your locations? Is there evidence that there is desire from businesses in our town to have this kind of promotional sign?
Thank you for that. I wouldn't know off the top of my head, but I believe there has been in the past. I could find some receipts if need be to pass on to council in the future. In terms of like the reasoning of why we've chosen Mansfield, I think it's from two parts, that there is a demand for that area, especially I know a lot of businesses want to like target the holiday seasons, especially like the ski winter seasons and summer seasons, especially in the Mansfield region. And then also, us going out and searching for it, thinking there's a gap in the market, as there has been one previous advertising sign that's been put up in the Mansfield area in the past. So noticing that there's a gap due to the availabilities in the area or lack of availabilities.
Any other questions? Thanks, Ms. True, for coming in and doing your deputation and taking questions tonight.
Thank you so much.
Okay, councillors, item 13.2.1 is the planning application for the major promotional sign at 810 Chinley Street. Any questions for the responsible officer, Ms. Nicole England? Councillor Team.
Yep. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Resembling the block next door to number 810 is number 12. Is that a residential address? Is that a residential house?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it is currently occupied by a residential dwelling. I do note that that dwelling is situated in the commercial 1 zone, though.
Yep. Yeah, righto. Have you got an idea of how far that sign is from the actual building? That residence looks very close to me.
Not the specific distance measurement. The sign was proposed to be less than a metre from the fence itself. There is space between that fence and the dwelling for a car to drive down the driveway. So approximately maybe 3 metres, but that is an estimated guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you receive an objection from the owner of number 12?
We did not.
Okay. Is this application for the permit for this sign, does it have a time limit on it? A time frame?
Yeah, interesting question. So if a planning permit is issued for a promotional sign, being any sign that's advertising something that's not on the land, they can come with a traditional 15-year expiry limit. We do have existing permits in our township for existing promotional signs that have 15-year expiry on them. I do note, though, that it is council's responsibility to follow up on the compliance to ensure the removal of those signs, which it can be a challenging thing 15 years after a permit is issued.
Okay, so you're saying, just to be clear, that there would be a 15-year time frame on permit on this application if it was to be successful?
Correct. If council chose to issue a permit, it could include an expiry condition, enabling the sign to be there for a maximum of 15 years.
Okay, thanks.
Councillors, any other questions? Emily?
No.
There's a recommendation on page 18 before you.
I'd like to move that council resolves to issue a notice of decision to refuse to grant a permit for planning permit application P016-25 for major promotion sign at Lot 2 on PS 311622F, commonly known as 810 Chenry Street, Mansfield, for the following reasons, as per page 18 of the August council meeting agenda.
Thanks, councillor Brenny. If I go to seconder for the motion, councillor Treasure. Councillor Brenny, you've proposed.
Just
Move the-
before we proceed with that, can I just ask that the recommendation that councillor Rooney has proposed is there's a point in there which needs to be amended. Would you like to just point 1A? It's just a
just a spelling change. Point 1A, to recognise, support, protect neighbourhood character, cultural identity, and sense of place instead of send.
Sense of place instead of send.
End of place in Mansfield Shire. Thanks for the pick up, councillor T.
That's fine. Okay.
Yep. Got that, officers? Yes, good, thank you. All right, so you're moving it, as you said, on page 18 with that change from send to sense. Would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Councillor Treasure, do you want to speak to the motion?
Just briefly, please, Mr. Mayor, just to say that I believe our planning department has the finger on the pulse of what the community wants and what's appropriate for the town and what's within the realms of the law. So that's why I'm sort of endorsing their recommendation tonight.
Thank you. Councillors, anyone else want to speak to or against this motion?
Yes, please, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Clark, go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to say that, as a council, we rely not heavily, but we put people in place. We have people in place in our offices who do this job really well, and they do a lot of research and they put a lot of time and effort into making these recommendations. And I believe they've done a good job to ensure that this recommendation is in line with what our broader community wants. And that's what we've heard as a council as well in relation to this application. The reason it's come to council is because it had an outstanding number of objections, which to me reflect the sentiment in the community. And it is our job as councillors to represent those people and their interests. And as far as I'm concerned, Gork have not provided any evidence that this has community benefit to our businesses, so I support the motion.
Thank you. Any other councillors will speak or against the motion? No? In that case, I'll put the motion to a vote. Those in favour of the motion. Motion is carried. Item 13.2.2, planning permit application P149/22 at 240 Malcolm Street, Mansfield. There is a deputation tonight by Mr. Andreas, and I hope I've got the pronunciation right.
It's pretty close. It's Andreas, but thank you for trying.
I did try, and I actually tried before the meeting, so it's bad enough having a name like Raby. Anyway, go ahead.
Good evening, councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to present to you very, very quickly tonight on the matter at 240 Malcolm Street in Mansfield. The focus of my presentation to you tonight is purely on the public open space contribution, which has been recommended to you to be set at 5%. It is our position that percentage be reduced to 2%. On the basis of the fact that there is no set percentage in the Mansfield planning scheme at the moment for an open space contribution, and therefore under the Subdivision Act, a percentage must be reasonable and be justified under the tests set in section 18 of the Act, which has been presented to you in the delegates report. What we would like to say is that the 5% open space contribution is disproportionate to the proposed development at 240 Malcolm Street. What needs to be remembered is this is rural living zoned land, which is non-urban. And in fact, your draft open space contributions plan excludes this land from the plan. It's not included. That plan only includes land which is zoned low density residential, commercial and industrial. This is different. Next door to the east, there is a large subdivision proposed. It's proposing 86 allotments. On that proposal, there is land proposed for an open space contribution, which is 1.9 hectares in size. That equates to 6.26% open space contribution for 86 lots. What's been proposed here is 5% financial contribution for only 9 lots. So it's disproportionate to the proposed increase in density for the Mansfield Township. There is only 9 proposed houses, 9 future houses, which will require additional open space services and infrastructure in Mansfield. So using the tests in section 18 of the Subdivision Act, it's submitted that the 5% is not consistent with what's proposed here. It's not justified in terms of an increase in demand for open space. And just quickly, I'd like to point on the delegates report does state that the land that is being subdivided, some lots may not be suitable for open space and recreation. That's not correct. There is lots of space on these proposed allotments which will be usable for open space by the residents. So that in itself will create a decreased need on infrastructure within Mansfield for open space. So there is some, yes.
It's 3 minutes, so I've gone way over. So wrap it up, please. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Look, very finally, there is VCAT decisions which we have referred to in our submission, and that also supports a reduced open space contribution for non-urban subdivisions and where a subdivision is occurring outside of a township. So on the basis of that, we'd like the councillors to investigate the reduction in the open space contribution to 2% as opposed to 5%.
Thank you for your deputation. Nick, councillors, have you got any questions? In that case, there's no questions. Thank you for coming in tonight and making your deputation to us.
Thank you.
Thanks. Councillors, are there any questions for the responsible officer, Ms. Nicole Imbling?
I think we all have questions.
Councillor Councillor Brady.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, question for Ms. Emling. Just relation to those exemptions, I'm looking at the Mansfield planning scheme 53.01-1. Exemption for public space requirement. Am I reading that wrong, or this does not meet that exemption under that planning scheme?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Breeny, you are correct. So the application doesn't qualify for an exemption. There are exemptions in the planning scheme that enable things such as a 2-lot subdivision and some other matters. This application, this proposal does not fit into any of those exemptions.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Fine.
Yep, I have a question. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Ms. Emling, Mr. Blahandrius, I think is how I can't remember now, made a point of the 86 allotments going into Kidston Parade and only contributing 6.26% as a land contribution. Can you explain how the percentage works, like what the percentage is against?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor. There's a few elements at play here. The first one being what Mr. Valahandra has pointed out was that we don't have a percentage in our scheme as of yet, which means at the moment 5% is the maximum that we can ask for. However, what's really important to note is our adopted council document, the Mansfield Public Open Space Strategy, which I've made mention of in the officer report, does actually have a sliding scale for recommending public open space, and that's based on a number of lots proposed in a subdivision. So that document actually recommends any subdivisions with more than 10 lots would be asking for 7.5% public open space. I do believe between 3 and 9 lots, it would be 6.5%, which is what this one would have fallen into if we had that in our policy in the planning scheme. And then under, say, year 2 to 3 lots would be the 5%. So at the moment, we can only ask for the 5% because that, whilst it's an adopted document of council, it's not yet been implemented into our planning scheme. And it's important to note too that regardless of the land zoning being that it's rural living, this development does enable 9 dwellings, and we'd be asking for the same amount of contribution regardless of whether it was an in-town development of nine lots or one on the edge of town. That would still, those occupants of those dwellings, we imagine, will still use our footy ovals and our botanic gardens, etc. That is where we hope to see our residents using our public spaces. And it's reasonable then that these developments contribute so that council can continue delivering a high level of service.
Thank you. And just to clarify, we're talking about 5% of what number?
Certainly. So the 5% calculation, where the development doesn't provide a public open space contribution on site, you see some subdivisions actually provide a public park or they provide some open space. Where that's not appropriate or hasn't been called for through our adopted document, the contribution becomes monetary and it is 5% of the land value undeveloped. So effectively, it's 5% of the current land value.
Excellent. Thank you for clarifying. And sorry, just one further point of clarification. When it's not a land contribution as part of that development, it's a monetary contribution. You mentioned that it goes towards our Shire open space maintenance and renewal projects. So that contribution relates to community use of our current open spaces. Am I correct in saying that?
That is correct. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Any money that council receives for a specific public open space contribution gets held in and is only spent in a certain way that relates to creating or maintaining or improving council's open spaces. In a fantastic scenario, that money is usually used in areas within proximity from that development. So the money is usually spent on areas near a development. So those residents would see direct benefits.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Emily.
Councillor Treasurer.
Just one point of clarification, please, Mr. Mayor and Assembly. The 5% is a sort of consistent, transparent figure that so there's no question of subjectivity. It's an objective figure that we just put in across the board. Is that the intention?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. It is without having our policy implemented through our planning scheme. For us to give discretion and reduce that, it would be at either officer or council level to make a decision with not a lot of guiding principles. You will see historically our permits for similar things, but also other permits for subdivision and development have consistently called for 5%. So we are aiming to be consistent.
Thank you.
Councillor Team.
Mike pretty much answered. Just what's a red dot decision?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor. So there are different VCAT cases out there in the world, many of which make decisions on a very broad variety of things. A VCAT case gets determined as a red dot decision when it's determined by the tribunal that that decision has bounding effects and is effectively called as an important case that should be relied on as a decision for precedent going forward. So whilst every VCAT case can set precedents and is used, the red dot decisions are held with a bit of a higher order.
Okay, great, thanks. Yeah, no, my other queries been answered. So, all good.
Yeah, and the question I had about the open space contributions, what does that money go to, has been answered in the discussion that you've had. So that's the only other question that I would have had. All right, councillors, you're going to make a decision. So, Councillor Clark.
I would like to move a motion that council issue a planning permit for a 9-lot stage subdivision at 240 Malcolm Street, Mansfield, subject to the following conditions as read and as stated on page 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, and 38 of the agenda with no changes.
Okay, have I got a sec, Councillor Bruni? Councillor Clark, you've moved the motion. Do you want to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Bruni, you've seconded the motion. Do you want to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Does any other councillors want to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I'll speak to the motion.
Thank you,
That's all right.
councillor.
I think it's really good. I think it's a really good decision that we stick with the 5%. I think the argument that the applicant put around having a site with 86 lots next door, paying 6.26%. I mean, we do have to remember that the value of that property will be significantly more than the rural living property where the applicant is proposing. And I think that the decision, the Stupak versus Hobson's Bay decision, being important as it is, highlights whether there will be a need for more open space, and there definitely is a need for more open space as Mansfield grows. And if there will be a need for more open space, what percentage is appropriate? Well, I think it's pretty well set out that 5% has been appropriate as a council standard for quite a long time for these type of developments. So I'd just like to also say that I think it's a really good project. This one, it's a really good proposal, and I applaud the applicant for the work they've put into it. And I'd like to see a lot. These sort of developments are really good, but I think if we start to vary the percentages of open space, then it opens a can of worms, and I think it's so that's why I'm supporting this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Tan. Does anyone want to speak against the motion? I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour of the motion? That motion is carried. 78. Parking infringement penalties, item 13.2.3. The responsible officer is Ms. Maya Belvanova. Is Ms. Belvanova coming?
She's online, so
She's
yeah.
online. She's not on my screen. Oh, good evening, Ms. Belvanova. You're not on my screen, but you're up there in the big screen. So good evening, welcome to her. Look, I'll read the purpose of this out. To seek a council resolution to adopt specific penalty levels for certain parking infringement notices, known as PINs. A resolution is required to adjust default penalties where they are not considered sufficient to deter individuals from deliberately breaching parking regulations and to more effectively support compliance with parking controls. So, councillors, have you got any questions for Ms. Belvanova? Councillor Team?
Yeah, Ms. Belvanova, is there a reason why this is coming to us, this motion to increase the maximum infringement penalties? Is there sort of people that are abusing the current system? Is that why we're sort of looking to be able to increase the penalties?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I think this ability to vary the penalty applies only on the specific 11 offences as detailed in the table. And to attract higher infringement penalties, give us the opportunity to have that parking enforcement and parking control and to address it more in a safety way. So basically, these would be in relation to individuals from deliberately breaching parking regulations. Don't know if I've answered your question, but I think it would just give us a more space to address more the highest allowance rate under current regulation is 0.5, and those 11 offences would require the maximum infringement penalty, if I could say it that way.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, I might just add to that. We're not having large numbers, but we do get quite a bit of anecdotal feedback from community about concerns with people parking, particularly at this time of year when we get a lot of the high levels of visitation to Mansfield. So our general approach, as the officers have pointed out in their report, is to try to take a working with and a facilitatory approach. However, with visitors to town, while we don't want to be discouraging them from coming, we do need something that is a reasonable disincentive against doing the wrong thing. So with a 0.2 penalty unit, it's only $41.
So that's cheaper than parking on that board.
So
Yes.
Is that where some of the issues are coming from?
Potentially, yes.
Okay.
Anecdotally, yes.
So if it was to go to $102, yes, this is suggesting that might discourage people from
doing the wrong thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
We hope. I can't guarantee.
Yeah. Okay. How broadly have we engaged with the community over these penalty increases? Gone out of public consultation?
No, I think the short answer to that is that it hasn't. This is something we could do wider consultation on, and I'll ask the officers to jump in if I've got that wrong. It's one of those things because it's a regulatory thing. It's not it's more of an information than a consultation. Ultimately, council is setting a fee here, and it's something that would be very difficult to do community engagement over, if I could put it that way. So we would inform the community based on council's decision. If council decides that this is not something that they want to pursue, then we will inform, obviously, community of the outcome. So yes, it is a change. It's not something we would normally consult in advance on. And I'll ask the general manager if she's got anything she wants to add on that.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, essentially what we're looking at is if we leave it at the 0.2, we are actually out of alignment with most other municipalities. The predominant fee that is charged for these offences is the 0.5 penalty unit across the state of Victoria. So by having a fee unit significantly lower, it does make it look like we don't take our parking enforcement as seriously as other municipalities, which is not a message we want to send, and that we also it makes it very easy for people to do the wrong thing. Our compliance team does take a facilitatory approach. So they do actually move people on in the first instance before we go down the path of issuing fines. They'll issue warnings. We do a lot of that work to try and encourage a positive response to parking rather than a punitive reaction. But we don't want to be out of alignment with other councils either in terms of the charges that we're making when we're issuing a fine either.
So is it, am I reading from that? Is it somewhat a bit of a discretionary approach that can be taken here? Is it like, can an officer look at some of these things and say, well, I value that as a 0.2 rather than a 0.5 in this instance, or is it set? Would this set the mark or the penalty?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it will set the penalty, but the discretionary element is where the officers don't issue a fine as a automatic response. They will attempt to try and move vehicles on in the first instance, particularly in our high traffic areas, because the reality is if people are staying there longer, they're impeding other people's rights. The reality of what we want is people not to park there too long. So their predominant purpose is to actually keep parking moving the way it needs to. The fines are an instance of last resort.
Yeah.
Right, and are these infringements applicable to all towns in the Shire where there are parking regulations? It's
Yes,
not just
absolutely. That's right. Through you, Mr. Mayor, they all apply to anywhere where there is parking signage that directs either timeframes or disabled parking, things like that. All of our parking across the municipality will be affected by this. Most of our parking inspections are, though, predominantly in our high traffic areas within Mansfield Township in the commercial area.
Would this also apply to people parking on nature strips and in gardens and things like that, and during peak sort of busy times? Or is this a different?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, this is just some of them. So this is where these are parked timed car parks. There are other provisions that relate to when people park across the driveway or park on a nature strip, and they're all predominantly already at 0.5. Their minimum is already, the default infringement is already 0.5. So it's just bringing these up to that same standard.
Thank you.
Yeah, Brendan.
I'd like to move that Council 1 resolve in accordance with Section 87(4) of the Road Safety Act 1986 and any other power enabling it to fix the infringement penalty specified in column 5 of the table below on page 42 of the agenda for the prescribed parking infringement offences under the Road Safety Road Rules 2017 listed in column 4, effective from 1st September 2025.
Thank you. There's a seconder. Councillor Clark. Councillor Brenny, Move the motion. Do you want to speak to it?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Clark, do you want to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other councillor want to speak to the motion?
Yeah,
Councillor-
I'd like to speak to the motion. I will support it, but I'm a little bit hesitant I would like to see that, given that this hasn't gone out to community consultation, I can see that there could be a few issues here if these was to change quickly, and all of a sudden people were getting whacked with fines, particularly local people. I understand what the objective of these is, but I think that we should have a cooling down period perhaps, or some sort of period. It should be very well advertised that these fines are going up for the next couple of months before they actually come into they're enforced. So I think we've got to be a bit careful. But I am supporting the motion.
Yeah, okay. Anyone want to speak against the motion? Put the motion to a vote. All in favour? Motion's carried. Item 13.3.1, the disposal or sale of council assets policy. The responsible officer, Ms. Young. Welcome to our meeting, Ms. Young.
Thank you.
Councillors, have you got any questions for Ms. Young on this policy?
Yeah. Can you just give me a brief explanation as to what are the main changes that have happened?
Yeah, there's been a big expansion on the sale of land. It was quite light on in the previous policy. So that's been expanded in just what council's been doing recently. There was a gender impact assessment added. And then there was also, apologies, it's just totally slipped
The community groups.
Oh, the community groups. So community groups can now come and we will offer them some different equipment, more stuff at the depot that might help them continue to run their groups. Could be a lawnmower instead of going straight to a public auction process, or however it's specified through the policy.
Thanks.
No other questions on?
Yeah, Councillor Treasure, got your hand up.
The recommendation is that council endorses the disposal or sale of council asset policies in 25.
Can I move an amendment to that?
Help.
No, please. Yes, I believe.
Yeah.
Just in that wording, and then there's some wording on page 6. That doesn't change the content. Just there's a sentence that I would like to just be slightly reworded.
Yep.
The sentence currently says all community groups identified in council's township reserves maintenance non-council land policy as maintaining open space will be notified of surplus council maintenance equipment. ... Proposing we change that to all community groups maintaining open space as identified in council's township reserves maintenance non-council land policy will be notified of surplus.
My docs is on tabs.
Sorry.
Crash, so
Page-
read it.
Page 6,
Ah.
first sentence under maintenance equipment to community groups maintaining open space. Just a clarification of where those identified spaces is coming from.
Yell out when you've got that, and that will be the motion. With that,
With agreement from.
With
the
agreement
mover.
from the
agreement.
mover.
Yeah, I was about to say,
Councillor Treasure?
but yeah.
Yeah.
I'll move the motion with the amendment per councillor Clark,
right,
please.
so absolutely. Page 6.
Yeah. So we're changing the whole sentence, so it is a long sentence.
Sorry, yeah, so
Councillor Clark,
just,
can you read it out again?
yeah, so just to clarify, at the moment, it reads that all community groups identified in council's township reserves maintenance non-council land policy. I'm proposing it should read all community groups that are maintaining open space that is identified in council's township reserves policy. So moving the maintaining open space
Before
the policy.
Yeah.
So we're not identifying community groups in the policy, we're identifying the open space that they manage through the policy.
Correct.
Okay, so the maintaining open space policy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. So that can always be played back and written for if this seconded and goes through that.
Yeah, so just be stating that council endorses the disposal of or sale of council assets policy.
With a minor amendment to that section.
Like that.
Yeah, good. Got a second?
I'll
Yeah,
second.
thank you, councillor Clark. Do you want to speak to it, councillor Trigger?
No, thank you.
Councillor Clark?
No, thank you, sir.
Anyone else, any other councillors want to speak to this motion?
Sorry, I just want to be clear on, given that we might have discussed this in the pre-council meeting, did you? Or have you just?
Yeah, briefly, yeah, we
just
did.
briefly
did,
right,
yeah, was
about the
raised.
word.
So it's the wording on page 6 under maintenance
Yes.
equipment to community groups maintaining open space.
Yeah,
So run me through it again.
So at the moment, it reads like all community groups identified in council's township reserves maintenance land policy. We don't identify community groups in that policy. So I'm proposing it reads all community groups that are maintaining open space that is identified in council's township reserves policy. So moving the as maintaining open space before, so so all community groups maintaining open space identified in council's township. So you're identifying the open space they may, that they
The
may.
focus goes on the open
Makes
space,
sense
not
to you?
on the, not on the.
Yeah,
agreed?
on the
yeah,
community.
that's all.
Good. Right, we're all clear on what we're voting for.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. With those
Sorry.
changes that you can
Thank
look
you.
back,
Got
that's the good thing about
Got
having this.
Yeah.
So. Item 13.4.1 is the council plan actions 24-25. The responsible officer is Ms. Schneider, acting executive manager, community health and wellbeing.
We've skipped one.
The agenda I've been given. And I can't, clock on perhaps back up. That's the one that's been given to me
Yeah.
2 days ago.
Went out. I don't think there was another report if you wanted another hard copy.
Okay.
Suggestion.
Thank you.
So it's just number.
Was it 13?
So I've got the wrong one. We probably got the wrong one.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do too.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yes, yep.
all those guys, all the modern councillors are there all right. They're all in line.
So was it not on docs?
It is.
The agenda,
It is.
is it?
Yeah.
It's on the agenda.
Yeah.
No attachments.
Page 48 of the docs agenda.
This keeps questions. Critical. Can't read it.
Would you like me to read it? out on
Item
your behalf?
13.4.1, Mansfield Werner Accessible Pool Scheme funding. Manager Operations and Capital Works, Mr. Maple. That's why you're in here. Oh, well, welcome, Mr. Maple, and also to you, Mr. Houghton. Councillors, have you got any questions for Mr. Maple?
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you,
Yes.
Councillor Brenny.
To Mr. Maple, just a quick explainer for councillors as to what is planned with this funding, and why it would be an adjustment from what was proposed back in February. Council meeting on 12th of February 2025.
Yeah, sure, thanks. So through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, councillor. The proposed scope is outlined in the report in regards to the the roof over the closure over the pool, the winterization of the change rooms, some DDA improvements, as well as a splash park toddler play area upgrade. And the budget's outlined in the report. In terms of since February, I believe this report's more around just demonstrating where the savings in the capital works program are coming from to contribute our portion of the funding.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I might just add a little bit. So in terms of answering the question, what's changed? We did receive the funding agreement since council's resolution. At the time, I think the first resolution was made endorsing a co-contribution amount of 422,000. That was actually before the application was submitted. That was a proposal at that point in time, while the team was still pulling together all the estimates for it, and looking with the grant funding body as to what level of contribution would be required. So we now have received the funding agreement. There is a higher co-contribution amount proposed. The team have undertaken a review of our capital works program for this year and have managed to identify where they can fund that contribution. It will be over 3 years. So now that we have the funding agreement, we have some certainty over the staging of that contribution, and are confident that we can make that contribution without affecting council's 25-26 budget, and also in line with our 10-year financial plan for the future years.
Thank you.
What was the budget co-contribution
The original proposal was 422,000
for 25-26? No, in total.
In total.
in total. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
but there
in
was
total.
nothing
Yeah.
contributed to in the 25-26
In the
budget.
25-26, no, that's correct. And we were able to identify within our budget what we could. We've actually looked at reducing an allocation that was made for Graves Road culvert, because we now think we need to apply for a bridge for Graves Road. The culvert works were a lot bigger. So we have still retained a contribution towards that, but because we'll be applying for some external funding and had already applied for that, we think we can reduce that contribution. And there was a couple of other projects too that we think are probably not as critical as this. And information was circulated to councillors on those. Yeah. So we can do it within our overall adopted budget amount for this year, and also for for the subsequent years.
And just to clarify on that, Madam CEO, the agreement for this amount came post the budget being finalised, which is why that co-contribution amount wasn't included originally.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes, we didn't know at the time of preparation of the budget that we were going to be successful with this grant.
Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Procedural question, clarification. Is the pool considered an open space?
Oh, potentially yes.
Great question.
But I might have to take that one on notice, Councillor Brenny, unless the general manager is. No, she's shaking her head too. I think we might take that on notice. I suspect not. But yeah,
Potentially not
Depend-
because there's a fee to.
yeah,
You
yeah,
have to
yeah,
pay it, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You want to go? Yeah, just improvements to the learner pool, including roof, 865,000. Seems a lot of money for just some improvements to a pool. Do you care to run us through the detail of some of the detail of that, Nick?
Yeah, sure. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Quite a number of improvements, notably the big cost item was the roof enclosure to make it an all year round, pool.
Yep.
So, and a lot of the, call it engineering going into that is the fact that it's a retractable roof system as well. That's what this figure was based off. So it's quite a substantive structure that needs to be moved. In addition to that, we were sort of looking at relining the pool, and making some improvements to get disabled access into that pool as well. But predominantly the cost is associated with the roof structure.
And because I'll just add one thing to that, because it's a retractable structure, it does need improvements to the concourse around it as well. So it's not just the roof. It's got to be level. There will be some adjustment to levels around the pool. So there will be some concreting works as well as roofing works in it. Yeah. So it's quite a job.
What's the size of the pool?
Oh,
Approximately.
it's about, I'm taking a guess here. The big pool's 33 metres, so it must be about 15, roughly. Yeah.
10 to 15.
Yeah.
15 by
About 10.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a square.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Might be
And it's
12.
how deep is it?
It is actually, we're actually looking at through this whether we can actually increase the depth a bit, because it's currently only about a metre depth,
It's a metre,
900 to a metre, something like that. We're actually looking at whether, because we've got to make modifications to the concrete anyway, whether we could actually increase the depth by going up a bit, which would make it available for a broader range of uses. Like you could do exercise classes in it, for instance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense now. Yeah.
And the heating, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Beg your pardon, sorry.
That's right.
Sorry. The heating system, that would be a pretty major upgrade too.
Yeah.
That's part of that
Yeah.
project.
Yeah.
What's heated?
Absolutely.
Or does the roof keep it warm?
I think you'd have to heat it though.
Does it heat?
There's modifications, as I understand it. Not tell me.
That's correct. And also the roof enclosure will also minimise the heat loss to the environment. So it'll also help with obviously all the heat's just going to go out. But enclosing it in will keep it a bit warmer as well. But yeah, it's upgrades to the electric heating of the facility
as well.
Right. Okay. So is it planned to have this open year round?
That would be our intention.
Yeah, right. Okay. So have we done any costings on the extra energy we're going to use and the cost of that?
We will have to revisit that, but we have done some initial costings on it, and that particularly with using this grant opportunity to look at new systems there that'll be more energy efficient. So we actually, the cost we think is able to be accommodated. We have done an estimate of that, and
sorry, to add to that too, I think we're looking at adding more solar onto the facility as well, which would offset some of the increased electricity consumption.
Councillor Clark.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Has there been any kind of projection costs on staffing if you're looking at opening it all year round?
we have looked at that, and I don't have that figure with me, but I could certainly take that one on notice and get that to councillors. Yeah. And we'll also be doing, I think, some engagement as part of our post-season engagement on what hours community are looking at having it open. So there's still a little bit of work to do on this one. Yeah, that's the intention. Obviously, you know, it will need to be done within our budget constraints. So it's something we'll look at very carefully.
Councillor Treasure.
One more through you, Mr. Smith. So are we looking at running it as swimming lessons and for the Shire to run that, or would we be looking at outsourcing it, or that's still all the options are on the table?
It is currently outsourced.
Yep.
So that's something I think we need to look at over these next 12 months fairly carefully. I mean, it's good timing that we have received the grant, but I think how we operate needs to be looked at, you know, because it may be there's a few different options you could, council could adopt there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brony.
So Mayor, I'd like to move a motion that Council 1 approves an increased financial co-contribution amount of $750,741 for the Learner Accessible Pool Scheme package at the Mansfield Aquatic Centre over 3 financial years. A, B and C as per page 49 of the agenda, and to approves the execution of the funding agreement with the Department of Jobs, Skills, Industry and Regions for the LAPS package at Mansfield Aquatic Centre.
Thank you. Got a seconder? Councillor Treasure. Councillor Brenny, you've moved the motion. Do you want to speak to it?
Yes, please, Mr. Mayor. As someone who spent a lot of their early life swimming up and down that pool, not much has changed since it was put in there. You know, the dream of the town is to have a U-Boot Flash indoor all-year aquatic centre. A huge amount of budget and operational costs that go along with that. So this works will do a significant amount to improve the accessibility, not just for the current pool users, but hopefully extend it for some who aren't able to access it at the moment. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Treasure, do you want to speak to the motion?
Just to say that hopefully that we can provide swimming lessons for small children and save people having to drive to Benalla in the winter. Children's swimming lessons, which would be great.
Thank you. Any other councillor want to speak to the motion? Against the motion? In that case, I put the motion to a vote. Those in favour of the motion. Motion is passed. Right now, item 13.5.1 is the council plan actions 2024-25, and its responsible officers was executive manager, community health and wellbeing. It's a big title. Welcome, Ms. Schneider. Councillors, got any questions for Ms. Schneider? This agenda item? No. That's good. Councillor Clark.
If there's no further questions, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move a motion that council accepts the council plan 2021 to 2025 end of financial year report for 2024-25.
Thank you. Councillor Treasure. Seconding. Councillor Clark, you've moved the motion. Do you want to speak to it?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Treasure, seconding motion. Do you want to speak to it?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other council law like to speak to the motion? Against the motion? The motion to a vote. All those in favour? Motion is carried. Item 14, council meeting resolution actions station status register. Councillor Clark.
I'd like to move the council receive and note the Mansfield Shire Council meeting resolutions action status register at 12th of August 2025.
Councillor Brenny. Want to speak to the motion, Councillor Clark?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Brenny.
No, thank you.
Any other councillor want to speak to that motion? Against the motion? Motion to a vote. All those in favour? Motion carried. Item 15 nil. Item 16 nil. Item 17 closure of meeting to the members of the public, and also So recommendation before you. Councillor Team.
Council close the meeting to members of the public under section 66(2)A of the Local Government Act 2020 to consider confidential reports in accordance with section 66(2) of the Local Government Act 2020 for reasons set out in section 18 below.
Thank you. And the seconder, Councillor Treasure. All those in favour of the motion? And I'll put it to the Councillor Brenny, you'll be stepping out on this agenda item 18.1, and I'll pull you back in when we've finished that. Thanks very much.
Thank you. On the record that I'm leaving.
Yeah, I'll put it on the record you're leaving. Thank you, Councillor Brenny.
Bye.
Um,
Mm.
No. You do.
Mm.
Bill. Well, I thought that
Stays confidential. It's in confidence unless you agree to make it a public resolution.
Okay. Thanks everyone for waiting for us for that confidential meeting. That concludes our council meeting this Tuesday, the 19th of August, 2025. And I'll now close the meeting. Thanks for watching. Good night.
nice.
Yeah.
Done? Yeah, just to clarify, unless there's a bit in